If you've been following a 3-part mini-series on regaining core strength and tone and closing the gap of your diastasis, then congratulations, we have made it to the last step of our 360 core canister breath. And this is really the technique that you need to master in order to engage the full girdle of your waistline for maximum spinal stability and spinal support, reduce risk for injury, but also to close the gap of your diastasis. And bonus, because this last feature actually engages the pelvic floor, which is going to help you tighten, tone, and reduce or completely eliminate that lower belly pooch. Now, in the first part, we talked a lot about taking a really good, strong diaphragmatic breath, but we also exposed the dangers of belly breathing. In the second aspect, I talked about activating your deepest abdominal muscle, your transverse abdominis, and that is the muscle that's going to be most responsible for stabilizing the spine and closing the gap of that diastasis. But there's one more aspect to getting a strong core engagement, and that is proper pelvic floor engagement. And these things all need to work in synchronization together. Your breath with the abdominal engagement and the pelvic floor engagement, all of those things working together at the same time is going to provide you with the most spinal support, the ability to close the gap of diastasis, and reduce or eliminate that lower belly pooch. Not much attention is given to the pelvic floor until a woman becomes pregnant, and sometimes not even until after she has delivered that baby. And not much is said other than you need to practice Kegels. However, a lot of people have what I call pelvic floor amnesia. We're not really familiar with how to contract it. And I know for myself, a lot of the common cues that I heard was to imagine that it's riding an elevator to the top, or imagine a flower opening and closing. Because to have a really strong pelvic floor, you don't want to have a pelvic floor that is stuck in a contracted state all the time. You want one that's flexible, one that releases and closes, just like a bicep. You want one that can contract and that can relax. If it's stuck here all the time, it's actually not going to be very strong, and it's going to cause a lot of other problems. But if you can't contract it, if it's stuck in this relaxed position, well, that's no good either. Your pelvic floor is a hammock-like sling of muscles at the base of the pelvic bowl, and it works to support your internal organs. Your internal organs actually weigh about 15 pounds on average. If you have pelvic floor amnesia, just saying ride an elevator up or imagine a flower opening and closing, that doesn't help. That was the boat that I was in. I was very disconnected to my pelvic floor, and I really struggled with it. And as I prepared for my VBAC with my second child, I was like, all right, I am going to figure these Kegels out, and I'm going to do it. And I thought I was practicing Kegels throughout my pregnancy, and it wasn't until I was in labor and I was pushing, and my midwife was like, yeah, these aren't very effective. So she applied a little bit of localized pressure, and she's like, this is where I need you to push. And I was like, oh, the sensation was a lot further back than I thought, and I don't know what I was doing, but it was not a Kegel. So knowing that the sensation was further back, I heard one cue, and I don't remember who said it, otherwise I would credit them with with teaching me this, but I finally heard a cue that in combination with that physical cue while I was pushing, the light bulbs went on, and I learned how to do a proper Kegel, or how to contract my pelvic floor. And that is, I want you to think about drawing your sits bones together. Just think about drawing those two bones together and then up. Now you're doing a proper Kegel. And the flexibility, which is where true strength is going to come in, and having that dynamic pelvic floor, is going to be when you can do a reverse Kegel as well. So being able to contract it up, so draw those two sits bones together and up, but then also being able to relax and push them down. Now, how this relates to and how we tie this into the 360 breath, which we will practice together in a moment, is that you begin with a deep diaphragmatic inhale, really using your diaphragm to pull the lungs in. You need to use your transverse to hold your core in, because remember, we're talking about regaining core strength and tone and closing the gap of your diastasis. So if you inhale and you have all this new pressure, we've talked all about this in previous videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch those. But we've talked all about this. So you inhale, you have this increased pressure in your abdomen, and whether it's diastasis or some other hernia-like condition, that pressure can only go out or down. So if you don't engage that transverse abdominis, that deepest core, then that air is just gonna, and it's gonna make that hernia condition, like diastasis or any other hernia-like condition, is going to make it worse. So as you inhale with that deep diaphragmatic breath, You need to engage your transverse as well to keep everything in nice, tight, and safe, but then you also want to engage that pelvic floor. This is going to provide the most spinal support so that regardless of any activity that you do, you have the most spinal support and you have the least amount of risk for injury. So I want to go ahead and practice this with you right now. All right, so we're finally here. We're going to practice the full 360 core canister breath together. And that last part about engaging the pelvic floor, you're not going to see anything, but I want you to remember that cue of drawing your sits bones together and up, okay? So we're gonna start with a deep diaphragmatic inhale in through the nose, and we're gonna go ahead and let our belly distend one last time, and then you never need to let it distend again, okay? You can just use that transverse to hold it in at all times, forever and always, amen, okay? So deep inhale in through the nose, let your belly distend. You're gonna snap your core back, engage that transverse, and then you're going to pull your pelvic floor up. And that is going to be your full 360 core canister breath. So let's go ahead and practice this together. That's it, you guys. That is a full 360 core canister breath. Now, functionally, this is what you're going to be practice anytime you do any kind of exercise, okay? A lot of people, like I said, if you're wanting to reduce that lower belly pooch or regain core strength and tone, a lot of people are working on crunches or planks or Russian twists or any other thing to try and target their core, but they don't know how to fully engage the full girdle of their waistline. And when you learn how to do this, your spine will be safe. Your chances for injury go way down. This is something that you really should be practicing, especially that transverse engagement. That's something that you should be practicing even when you're in line at Starbucks. I was a massage therapist in a chiropractor's office for several years before I became a full-time stay-at-home mom and YouTuber. Aside from the patients who came in because of a motor vehicle accident, a lot of people came in and they had these back injuries for, I'm sorry, and I don't say this in a judgmental way, but it was for the most pitiful things. Like literally, I had somebody say they were picking up a pillow when they threw out their back. Life happens in transition. It's all the transition movements from standing to sitting, lunging, reaching, bending, twisting. That's where life happens. And your core is very dynamic and it is designed to respond to load. So as you reach, as you turn and get something behind you, or you're handing your kid that snack in the back seat, or you're hinging over to pick something up off the ground, your core is responsible for supporting your back. Okay, so ditch the back brace and use the one that's built in. And to get the most out of your exercises, like I said, if you've been doing all of the core exercises and trying to figure out how do I get rid of that lower belly pooch, you need to learn how to engage with your pelvic floor again. If you have been living with chronic pain, seeing doctor after doctor, going to chiropractor and physical therapist, and maybe you have knee pain or hip pain or shoulder pain, maybe you have a rotator cuff, all of these things are due to misalignments, and alignment matters. And the answer is not going to be exercising more, and it's certainly not going to be exercising less. It's going to be exercising smarter and with intention. If you're interested in diving deeper into body literacy and regaining muscular strength, tone, stability, and resolving other chronic pain issues like sciatica, low back pain, neck pain, chronic headaches, anything like that, then be sure to check out the link in the description box below, where I am going to connect you to the resource that has helped me close the gap of my diastasis in 3 weeks and resolve my chronic low back pain in just 60 days. My link will connect you to an online program that's designed to help you assess and address your specific muscular imbalances, and you'll also be able to use a free postural analysis tool where you can upload pictures of you and assess what your chronic imbalances are and how you can correct them. Be sure to like, comment, let me know what you thought about this video, and subscribe to my channel.